Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank you, Nida University, for holding this conference event. Today, I'm going to presenting my paper, which named Globalization and Income Inequality, a panel data econometric, was presented by Yue Jiang. Here comes to the research question. How does globalization affect income inequality within and between 133 countries over a 31-year period of time? Let's move on to the hypothesis section. The first hypothesis is skill-based technological change. It's a phenomenon driven by globalization and technological advancements, exacerbates income inequality by increasing the demand for skilled labors over unskilled labor, bringing greater wage disparities within countries. Another hypothesis is Doppler-Simpson theorem, which is driven from the HO model of international trade, suggests that trade liberalization affects the income distribution by benefiting the owner of a country's abundant factor of production, and that's impacting income inequality between countries. Here comes to the framework of this study. There are two independent variables which are foreign direct investments and trade openness. The dependent variable is Gini coefficients. We also concern about the interaction of FDI and trade openness. There are three hypotheses, which are the impact of FDI on income inequality, the impact of trade openness on income inequality, the impact of combined effect of FDI and trade openness on income inequality. Let's move on to the objective and the goal of this study. We want to examine the impact of globalization on income inequality and check the hypotheses to find the true relationship between them. We also gave policy implications to support 17 SDG goals to stimulate economic growth and poverty and support some of the 17 SDG goals. Here comes to the research motivation. It's a contemporary relevant study. As we know, globalization is a powerful instrument which aligns with some 17 SDG goals and bringing about the convergence of growth rate. Secondly, the research is evidence-based recommendations, which provided valuable insights for policymakers when they are making decisions, when they are making policies. Thirdly, this study addresses knowledge gaps. The research aims to fill these gaps by providing comprehensive and up-to-date analysis across 133 countries spanning more than 3 decades. Here comes to the background information. Globalization is categorized into 3 periods of time. The first is between 1980 to the first one is between 1870 to 1940, which considered as the golden age of the globalization. The world is truly on the move because of high immigration, and which can decrease the income for unskilled laborers, and vice versa. That's why income inequality happened. During the second wave of globalization, the 44 countries met in Bretton Woods and a stable international monetary system was built to spur economic growth, create jobs, and reduce income inequality. The third era of globalization started in 1989 to the present, and which is a remarkable increase in international trade, financial institutional transformations, and more investments happened. During this phase, the Gini coefficients has steadily increased until the present, since its historical low of 35% in 1979. Here comes to the data section of this study. Most of our data is drawn from the World Bank, such as Gini coefficients, foreign direct investments inflows in GDP, trade openness in GDP, 6 dimensions of worldwide governance index, and population density. The Human Development Index is from our world in data. The Global Peace Index is from the Institute of Economic and Peace public release data. For the data clearing service, we use two methods. The first one is to take average to fill back in the missing Gini coefficients. The second method is a statistical imputation method, which called forwards and the backwards approach. We use that to fill in missing gaps. Ultimately, 57 countries are excluded from this study due to the unavailable Gini coefficients. Let's move on to the summary statistics. The above two heat maps shows the change of Gini coefficients in 133 countries in 1990 to 2020. I found that I noticed that Gini coefficients has slightly decreased over time, especially in South Africa and especially in Africa and South America region. In Namibia, the Gini coefficients of Namibia changed from 63.3 to 52.9. 59.1. The Gini coefficients of South Africa changed from 63.3 to 44.9. In South America, the Gini coefficients of Brazil changed from 60.5 to 52.9. The above scatter plot shows a negative relationship between GDP per capita and income inequality in 133 countries over 3 decades. The above scatter plot also shows a negative relationship between foreign direct investment and income inequality in 133 countries over 3 decades. Before I ran all the regressions, I checked the stationarity of all the variables. I found that the variable of trade openness is non-stationary, so that we took the first order difference in to capture the changes of that variable. After that, I plot the graph. As you can see, there is a positive relationship between trade openness after taking the first order differencing and the income inequality. Let's move on to the methodology section. For the study, I use this study is a panel data regression based study. For the indexes, I means individual entity, which is sample countries, which is different sample countries. T means time. For the outcome variables, it's Gini coefficients. For the variables, it's alpha IT is intercept. Trade IT is trade openness. For FDI IT is foreign direct investments. Mu IT is error time. For the control variables, we select these control variables across social, economical, demography, and political dimensions in order to capture in order to limit the confound issue. These control variables are GDP per capita, human development index, population density, employment on population ratio, age 15 above, governance, world governance index, and last but not least, global peace index. At the bottom of this slide shows a complete model of this research. Here comes to the assumption violation. Some of our data sets face endogeneity, so we use Hausman fixed effect to mitigate this issue. Some of our data sets also encounter autocorrelation issue, so we use manual approach with lags to detect this residual, and we use non-West standard error approach to adjust for the autocorrelation up to 1. We also face heterostaticity problem. We use non-West standard error to be robuster to generate more accurate inference. Here are the 7 models of this study. The first model is base model. The rest model I will replace control variables respectively. Let's move on to the scope of the research. For worldwide, in total we have 133 countries for the research. In Asia, we have 32 countries. In Europe, we have 39 countries. The rest are shown in the table. We consider about the within country and cross country analysis. We also classify the countries based on the different development level. The research here is from 1990 to 2020. Let's move on to the empirical evidence section. For the within country analysis, the yellow highlighted number is 0.005979, which means which is statistically significant, meaning the rise in foreign direct investment is correlated with increase in income inequality. The orange highlighted number is 0.33, which is statistically significant, meaning the rise in foreign direct investment is correlated with decrease in income inequality in South America. This relationship holds true for model 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, except for the both base model 1 and the model 5 when we consider about the employment on population ratio at age 50 above. So right now I'll just quickly show my empirical evidence, my regression result. For the cross-country analysis, I found that the rise for FDI is correlated with rise in income inequality in worldwide country groups in Asia, North America, South America, Europe, and Oceania, except for the region Asia, Africa. The relationship holds true for model 2 and 3. For the classification, I found that in developing countries, there is a negative relationship between FDI and income inequality in worldwide sample countries in Asia. But however, there is a positive relationship between FDI and income inequality in South Africa. In developed countries, there is a positive relationship between FDI and the income inequality in worldwide country groups in Asia. But there is a negative relationship between FDI and the income inequality in South America. As you can tell, there is an exact opposite relationship between developing and developed countries. This kind of relationship holds true for model 1, 4, and model 5. Let's move on to the contribution of the study. The study provides further evidence for the study provides further investigation. The study provides further empirical evidence for future investigation into the relationship between globalization and income inequality. Secondly, the study is the first to analyze the impact of globalization on income inequality spanning 6 continents. Thirdly, the study tries to identify the effect of FDI and the trade openness on income inequality separately. Thirdly, last but not least, I combine 6 dimensions of worldwide governance index into one single WGI index. For the conclusion of this test, throughout the test, FDI contributes more than trade openness. Firstly, throughout the test, FDI contributes more to income inequality than trade openness. Secondly, we argue that governments should strategically engage and reevaluate policy framework and institutional mechanisms to actively address income inequality when formulating policies. Thirdly, governments in Asian and South American countries should not put too much emphasis on FDI. In contrast, countries in Africa should develop policies in order to boost FDI, as higher FDI is associated with a lower income inequality. Last but not least, developing countries in Asia should implement policies to encourage FDI, while developed countries in South America should also foster FDI to help reduce income inequality.